Game 2 last night. Sixers were trying to even up this series. Looked like a no-brainer early. They led by as many as 21 at one point. But you can't count out those scrappy Atlanta Hawks who tied this game up in the third quarter. But I got 2 words for you, Joel Embiid. Here's 4 words for you. Playoff best 40 points. Kudos to him. Kudos to Ben Simmons, too, for his defensive work on Trey, holding him in check. Philly wins. They even up the series at a game apiece. Nick, I'll start with you. What did you learn about Embiid and the Sixers last night?
I'll get to Embiid in a moment. Listen, the Sixers are my pick and have been my pick all year to come out of the East. And so I'm going to hold them to a very high standard. I didn't love this game from them. And you were like, Nick, they were up 20 early. They won by 15. They got to clean some stuff up. Doc Rivers got to figure out who his 8 best guys are. And, Doc, I can help you. It's your 5 starters, Matisse Thybulle, Dwight Howard, and then there's a question about who that other guard's going to be. Is it going to be Shake? Is it going to be Maxey? Is it going to be George Hill? But in Game 1, they lost the game because Doc went to an all-bench lineup that got outscored by 14 points immediately. Yesterday, in the first half, the bench unit was 32 Atlanta, 0 Philly. 32-0 in the first half bench scoring.
Wow.
So Philly's got to clean some of this stuff up. They got to clean some of the end-of-quarter stuff up because in the next round, whether it's Milwaukee or Brooklyn, you are going to have to play your best basketball. Luckily for Philly, they were able to overcome all of that, in part because of an incandescent 5 minutes from Shake Milton, but really because of Joel Embiid. Brandon called Joel Embiid the most dominant player in basketball 4 months ago. And thus far this postseason, while he hasn't gotten the headlines that Kawhi and KD have gotten, I believe on a minute-for-minute basis, Embiid's been the most dominant player in the playoffs. Can we show Embiid's numbers? You don't have to be a mathematician to realize that's more points than minutes played. That's pretty damn good. And if you do his game averages and remove the game that he hurt his knee in, he's given you a humble 33, 9, and 3 in only 32 minutes per game. And here's the even more remarkable part. On 60% from the field and 44% from 3 while shooting around 85% from the line. Brandon, there's no answer for Embiid. Right. Now, Embiid alone is not going to be enough for them to get to the finals. They're going to have to work out those other things, and Doc's going to have to tighten some things up. But as they figure it out, having Embiid do what he's doing, and that's not even mentioning the defensive end, puts them in a great position because there is no answer for him right now in the NBA.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the 76ers, they're a strong team, but I want to lean more into Embiid. I mean, everything you said, absolutely true. I want to go back to last year in the bubble. Last year in the bubble, here was my notes when we were talking about the 76ers. You had your boy go down, and then you had Embiid just standing there. So Joel Embiid, I put leadership, terrible. Body language, terrible. I can't win with this guy. You got to move on if he doesn't clean up his act. And then also his play in the bubble last year was just, it was so-so. He wasn't the most dominant player or the most dominant big in the NBA. We're talking about 2 months off, and he absolutely went to the other end of the spectrum. So that's the thing I saw last night. If you watch the game, there was a few plays where he's telling his guys, get over here, get over there. The way he's communicating, he looks like LeBron James out there. He looks like CP3 out there. You go back to game 1, the game they lost. Look how he was talking to Danny Green. Get up there, press Trae Young. So to me, the story is Joel Embiid. Yeah, we've seen what he's done all year on the court from a skill standpoint when healthy. But the leadership, the body language, all those things that he didn't do in the bubble, which was hurting his team, the distraction he was, man, he cleaned that up, and I think that's why he's having such a phenomenal year because what you do off the court matters on the court as well. So hats off to Joel Embiid cleaning this up. He is dominant, and he is phenomenal right now.
Also, hats off to your note-keeping archives. My goodness. Hey, this is a note for America. You want to be successful like Brandon Marshall.
Amazing.
This guy's got his notes at hand from the bubble. Mine are all just thrown in the garbage. This guy's got everything. Okay, here's my biggest takeaway. The Sixers are up 2-1. You're like, what, Wilds? Are you drunk again at work? I am, but it doesn't have anything to do with this point. Not germane. It doesn't affect my work. Here's why. We can break down game 1 to actually being 2 games. First half, Trae Young had 25 points. And then Doc Rivers like, you know what doesn't work? Danny Green. Hey, Ben Simmons, Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Why don't you guard him? Ben's like, yeah, thank you. Hello. Second half, he had 10 points, went 0 for 4. Last night, they threw a lot of different looks at him. Ben was on him more. Matisse was on him more. They weren't dropping on these pick and rolls. They were just throwing a lot of looks at him, just generally confusing the guy. And he went 1 for 7 from 3. So, Nick, I think we always talk about in-game adjustments. I feel like the first half was a feel-out half for Doc. He looked at it like, oh, this guy's going to cook us, especially if he gets hot. There's sort of like a momentum rhythm to his game. And once you see Ben Simmons block this shot, I think that Trae can run hot and cold. You're like, uh-oh, this guy is pretty good blocking my shot. I'm going to have to either move further back or my game plan wasn't going to work. So I thought it was a very indicative play, Ben blocking that 3.
So I think it's a great point. I also think it's why it's important to watch these playoff games, even when they're blowouts, to their conclusion. I'm going to go to a specific example. Game 3, the 2015 Finals, Cavs-Warriors, when Kyrie and Kevin Love were out. Look, the Cavs dominated Game 3. And then in the fourth quarter, Golden State figured some things out. They still lost. But what they did in the fourth quarter is what led them to winning games 4, 5, and 6. You could see, oh, they got it. Philly, what they did at the end of game 1, turning a 15-point deficit into a 2-point deficit with 2 minutes of intense, frenetic defense is, I think, what carried them to their early lead in this game. And thankfully, my God, my prayers have answered. Finally, somebody is making Trae Young work. Make him work on defense. Oh, you do. Tobias Harris cooks. Make him understand that he is my height and weighs less than me. So you know what? He shouldn't be the most dominant offensive player in the playoffs. And so that's been nice. Brandon, to your point, though, quickly on Embiid. I talked to Daryl Morey, who runs the Sixers, yesterday, because he's a little upset with me. He said I shouldn't have tried to get Pat Riley fined. I still think Pat Riley should be fined. Daryl's opinion is nobody should be fined. But we were talking about Embiid, and I don't think he'll be mad at me for saying this. He said the thing about Embiid that was the biggest surprise was how brilliant he is. He was like, I knew he was a great player from afar. But being around him every day, hearing him at practice, hearing him talk to teammates, the way he understands the game, the way he understands time score situation. He said he's one of the smartest guys he's ever been around. And I think because he's so big and so strong and so physically dominating, he doesn't necessarily get credit for that. But you've seen that throughout this postseason as well.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of the great players and athletes I've been around, you know, we look at them for what they do on the court, on the field, on the pitch. But one of the things that we don't see a lot, you know, because we highlight it with LeBron James, we highlight it with others, but most of our great players, their IQ is off the chart. So I'm not surprised by that when you see the jump Embiid has made. I mean, he's dominant. I mean, we're talking about a guy who was 80% from the free throw line this year, damn near 50 and 40%. Like, I mean, that's just, it's insane what he did at 7 feet tall. But here's the thing, Nick, you talked about Trae Young. All right, now, I heard you and Chris talk about Doc Rivers all year. Doc Rivers, top 5 as far as leadership and guys wanting to play with him. As far as a strategist, not a top 5 coach. So why is it taking you